It was a newsmaker of mammoth proportions, luring local and national media alike to this otherwise relatively quiet community. For a few days in early April 2005, Moorpark came alive as Mammoth Central. Who knew that a 5-ton prehistoric member of the elephant family used to live in our own backyard? And who knew that the life of at least one would end here, leaving us all to marvel at their existence today? Mammoths and mastodons are no strangers to Southern California, especially fossil deposits like those at La Brea tar pits. From time to time, they have turned up during extensive urban and suburban development that has occurred over the past several decades. Every discovery of a visitor from the past like a mammoth is exciting, but the story and journey of discovery that occurred in Moorpark in late March and early April 2005 is different and even more important and exciting. The day of discovery. Here on a warm spring day, a professional paleontologist, an expert in prehistoric life, was monitoring a site being graded for a future site of a 265 home community known as Meridian Hills, just north of town.
Saw something like this, protruding out of the earth. And he stopped the work immediately, and they dug a little away, and they found not only a tusk, but the beginnings of a discovery that Moorpark will be known for many, many years to come. This was an unusual tooth.
Is it heavy?
Yeah, it's heavy, but it isn't as heavy as the real one. The real one was this big, but it weighed about 300 pounds. The fossil collection was donated to the Museum of Natural History in Santa Barbara. So this is the tusk that we found, and when the earth mover hit it, it actually snapped into several pieces. The paleontologist recovered all the pieces, and we put them all together, filled in some blanks, and made this model. So this is actually what the tusk of this animal was like.
The team carefully yet excitedly removed bone by bone of the massive fossilized skeleton and wrapped them in plaster jackets. When the excavation was completed on April 8th, the bones, along with 3,000 pounds of dirt that had surrounded them, were transported to a lab for cleaning and study. After 9 scorching days of work, the team had recovered a remarkable 75% of the beast.
The reason they wanted the soil was to help them find out how old this skeleton was and what kind of skeleton it was. We call it a matrix because it was the soil that surrounded the skeleton.
Paleontologists and archaeologists realized that smaller specimens such as teeth, claws, pollen grains, tiny bones, hair, grass, and leaf fragments, parts of insects, even animal droppings, told their own important stories about diet, climate, and condition of the habitat and ecosystem.
And this is the display of some of the actual matrix material that came out of that 3,000 pounds of earth that surrounded the skeleton of the Moorpark mammoth.
It is believed to be the first species of mammoth that found its way from Asia to North America, nearly 1 million years before the Columbians and the Woollies. Its common and more popular name is southern mammoth. Its scientific name is Archdiscodon meridionalis.
The ears of an African elephant are bigger. The Indian elephants the ears are much smaller. A lot of people, when they see the southern mammoth, the Moorpark mammoth species, they think, well, that looks just like an elephant. Well, it is an elephant, and it does resemble the Indian elephants. It's just a lot older and a little smaller. Now, you remember the tusk that I held up, and it was much gentler curve? That's one of the main ways they tell the difference in adult skeletons between the Columbian mammoth, or the imperial mammoth, same species, and the southern mammoth. And of course, the distinction really is the southern mammoths were here much, much earlier than the Columbians. So we were dealing here with the second major discovery of a high percentage of the animal finding in Southern California.
At this first speculation, debate among mammoth experts began to heat up. Some believe that because southern mammoth specimens have been found so rarely, that this one is really just another Columbian. More tests are needed before anyone can be certain. It is also suspected that it died after becoming stuck in a small lake or pond. Because the entire skeleton was confined to an area of about 24 square feet, indications are that the bones had not been stolen and scattered by hungry predators and scavengers. The water had covered the carcass and prevented that from happening.
Who knows what that is? Okay, we're back in the blue dress. That's right. This is a saber-toothed tiger, the arch enemy of the southern mammoth. But these mammoths and these creatures were so large that it would take 10 or 12 of these to take one down. But basically, this is a model of a skeleton of a saber-toothed tiger. It's to scale. It's the way the animal will look. But we believe that the skull of this specimen that was found probably sunk deeper in the mud in that pond, and that's why we didn't find it. They only spent about 6 days digging, so they didn't go down that deep. So we believe that somewhere in that location, deep under the ground, is the skull of this mammoth. If you take a typical adult footprint of a mammoth or an elephant, and it'll measure in circumference about 6 to 7 feet around. If you take that 6 or 7 feet and multiply it by 2, that 14 is the number in feet from the foot to the shoulder of the size of that animal at the time that footprint was taken. From all the information we have, this is a replica of the Moorpark mammoth. Now, as you can see, that it does look a lot like an Indian elephant, except maybe for the tusks, which we've already talked about, and how they're long and gently curved. It also has more of a sloped back, and the hind legs are a little bit shorter than our modern elephants. So those are the ways you can tell the difference between the ancient southern mammoth and our elephants of today. Nobody can be really sure. Generally, females in these species were a little bit larger than the males. Of course, the bone structure is slightly different. And those are the reasons we felt that this animal was probably a female. And that's why we affectionately call her Emma, or the Big M. One of the ways they can tell the age of a fossil, you know how a tree, when you cut a tree down, there's rings? Well, there's rings in the tusks as well. They're not too easy to see in this, but in the real fossil you can actually see them, the one that's on display in Santa Barbara. So they count those rings and they have an idea of how old this animal was. We believe the Moorpark mammoth was about 48 to 50 years old when she died. These are some of the teeth from the mammoth collection. An adult mammoth actually had 4 teeth, only 4 teeth. They look like this because they used these serrated edges, ground up all the brush and the shrubberies and the branches and things. That's what they ate. These animals did not eat meat. The thing about mammoths, the sad thing is they didn't have dentists to go to, so when they lost their teeth as an adult, guess what? They're gone. No teeth. Right. Yeah. The deaths of most of these mammoths occurred because they matured to the point where their teeth were no longer effective. They could not eat, therefore they perished. This one we believe was about 48 years old, and it was probably full grown. So this species, based on the circumference of the footprint, was probably about 13 feet high from the foot to the shoulder. Most of the studies of the matrix material we just talked about, the tiny fossils and everything, and their ages when they became extinct, all of those things put together have now confirmed, all the authorities have now confirmed that the Moorpark mammoth was a southern mammoth and more than likely was 800,000 to 1,200,000 years old, somewhere in there.